Hello and welcome to this WordPress tutorial brought to you by wpwiz.net. Today we're going to talk about how you make your WordPress site secure. Now, to new users of WordPress that are not very tech savvy, the topic of security can be a little traumatizing at first, especially when they do some research on the internet and find all the technical instructions around SSL, cookies, tokens. Well, I guess I've lost you already. However, securing your work is fundamental, and just because you have a little private blog doesn't mean that you could not be attacked. Nowadays, attacks on WordPress sites are mostly automated, and as soon as your site gets indexed by Google, which you probably want to, the risk of making it on the list of installations to attack increases significantly. There's another problem though. WordPress relies heavily on third-party plugins, as per our previous tutorials. While the community usually evaluates the quality of these plugins, it is not always a given that plugins don't create vulnerabilities. There are many cases where plugins, even though they were updated, created security issues, which were exploited by hackers. So how can you as a non-tech savvy user ensure that your WordPress site is reasonably secure? Again, it's not about securing a website to CIA standards, but hackers are more likely to look for easier victims and leave you in peace if they realize your site is a little bit more difficult to hack. So let me show you something that I will propose for you to install. It's a plugin. So if we go in plugins and I'll click add new here, we'll type in better WP security. This is a security plugin which is a kind of a one-click security guarantee for your website. Let's install this right now. Once you've installed it, you have to activate it. Always remember to activate your plugins, otherwise they won't be visible. There we go. And with that, you will now have a new button down here which is called security. Let's click on that for a second. So the first thing this plugin tells you is to create a database backup, because there will be changes going on to your database. In this case, I'll skip this path, but you should probably do this. The next thing is the plugin asks you whether you will allow it to modify some core WordPress files. Now, when we talk about core WordPress files, you'll read a lot in forums that we shouldn't modify core files, but the files this plugin is talking about is basically your configuration file for WordPress and your htaccess file. These files can be modified by the plugin, so this plugin is not tampering with any core files per se. It's just these two configuration files. And the next thing is a one-click protection where it says secure my site from basic attacks. So clicking on that, I get my little dashboard here, and the dashboard already shows me where I have areas for improvement and where I'm doing fine. Now, I strongly recommend you visit our website wpwiz.net and read the tutorial article that explains exactly what each of these options mean, because there are also some options that we don't really recommend applying. Although they increase a layer of security for your website, they can cause severe problems with other plugins. One example is the length of URLs, over 255 characters. Now, what does this mean? This means that some plugins use the URL bar up here to send information either to the web server or to other plugins or to a theme. Now, while this isn't necessarily great programming, there are a few plugins that use this technique, and these plugins, they might not work anymore if you activate this protection. So when would I recommend you activate this? Well, first of all, I would just give it a try, because the standard installation will still work. But if you see that there's some gallery or some other plugin that you installed that's no longer working, it's reasonable to believe that this might have been the cause. So for the other points, as I said, I would strongly recommend you visit our website and check out the explanations. Overall, these are quite easy to fix. The goal is not necessarily to get them all green, because green identifies that the aspect of security has been met and it's fine. Not all of them have to be green, but you should probably look through a few of them. If you've seen our previous tutorials, you'll remember that I always talk about the admin user, which should not be called admin, and which in this case we already set up our website with the admin user that has a different name. And the same applies to the WP-Wiz, which is usually WP underscore table prefix of the database. These are things that you can easily fix with this plugin. So no matter what kind of installation you have, Better WP Security is a really good plugin to get you set up for basic security. Now I do want to take some time to walk you through another plugin. And because this plugin here creates a certain layer of security within your WordPress files, so it's basically securing your house, right? But we also need a plugin that secures us from direct outside attacks so that we don't even have to get to this level of defense. And what I want to show you there is a program called, or a plugin called OSE Firewall. And again, be it with security plugins or with firewalls, there's a lot of stuff on WordPress. These are just two plugins that I really strongly recommend because we've had a lot of experience with these. Now in this case I've already installed it, so I'm not going to reinstall it at this point. But you will see that in your settings menu there is an option called OSE Firewall. And we'll just click on that. What does the firewall do? Firewall is a very popular terminology these days, but very few people actually know what a firewall does. The firewall is basically a filter between the world outside and your website. So when your website is approached by a visitor, he uses a certain way to visit your website and to browse your website. But there are different ports and channels through which your website can be visited or hacked. And with a firewall, we can limit the ports and channels that are open to those that are used by visitors to just read your content and browse your blog. So what do we do here? Basically, with this firewall scanning options, we can block certain options that are 99% malicious. So you don't assume that a normal visitor that comes to your blog is going to try to inject some SQL code into your database, right? So these things you can turn off or actually turn on very easily. Again, you'll see here there's another option about blocking queries longer than 255 characters, similar to the WP Security plugin. Again, I recommend to be careful about this because this might break some plugins. It does, however, add a layer of security to your website. So what do we do if we found an attacker? Well, we can show them a banned page, or we can just show them a blank page. So let's save these changes, and with these changes saved, you've pretty much entered the probably top 10% of WordPress security on the web. That means 90% of WordPress blogs don't have these settings enabled. There's also a nice thing here to test your configuration. Basically what this does, it tries to pass on some script, and you will see it in the footer of my browser where it says script, alert, script. So it's trying to put some script into the, inject some script into the database. And you can already see here it's not working, so everything looks good. With that, this concludes our little tutorial on WordPress security. I hope you didn't find it too difficult. WordPress security is a really important topic nowadays, especially with the huge amount of WordPress websites there are on the net. It's not really that difficult if you use the right plugins. WP Security and OSE Firewall are our preferred choice these days. Thank you for watching, and make sure to check out wpwiz.net.